one of the software programs the pros use is ignition, inductive ignition for HMI work. We've used these in the past, and this would be a very common software package for a lot of HMI, for a lot of controls engineers or programmers or HMI designers. That's kind of one of them that I ran into working for a large company. So anyhow, today what we're going to talk about is a software the pros use. So the software that the professional controls programmers, PLC programmers, HMI designers, engineers, managers, all that type of software that they use, that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you some introduction. And if you haven't used some of the software, it's okay. What I'm going to do is try to identify some of the typical applications for this software. And if you don't have a solution, I assure you you're going to use one of these softwares for one of these typical solutions. All right, so we'll get into it right now. You'll understand where I'm going with this. So let's go start with a software called Evernote. So Evernote, I use this a lot. I use this weekly, several times a week. I keep a lot of notes in here. I keep a lot of software, a lot of emails, photos, even a couple of passwords, some odd and end stuff in here. So this is an app I put on my phone. I put it also on my laptop. And the great thing about this is it synchronizes. If I enter the data from my phone, it syncs to my computer. If I put it on my computer, it syncs to my phone. So I only have to put it in there once, and it's distributed everywhere. The other great thing about this software is it's password protected, and you can hide notes inside there. So you can use it as a team tool, to keep a bunch of notes and documents for a project in there, or you can very easily use it for your own personal use. So I really like this. It has a lot of features. You can clip things from the web, templates, PDF search, spaces. You can put audio notes in here, pictures. It really has a lot of functions. I highly recommend this. So this software here is called Evernote, and I would highly recommend that you take a look at this software right here, Evernote, all right? For notes, for documents, papers, to-do lists, all kinds of information there that you can utilize. All right, so what's up next? This one's a classic. This one, you're going to use this a lot throughout your career. You're going to run into programs that it's going to require you to use. At minimum, be somewhat familiar with SolidWorks. Here's what I would recommend to new PLC programmers. Take a couple of introductory classes on SolidWorks. Okay, you don't have to be a designer. You don't have to go out there and build your whole career around it. But I will tell you this much: it is pretty cool software, and it is very useful to understand what and how the software works. Let me refresh this. It's very helpful. In addition to that, a lot of times for the programmers, you're going to get some sort of non-editable SolidWorks design to build your PLC program off of, and that's where this will come in handy. Some familiarity with SolidWorks, very typical. And we'll get into a little bit more of that later. So obviously, Inventor is another typical program that you will run into. At least I have in my experience. I've had to do a few things off of Inventor in my career. So in the same way that SolidWorks, I've used it when working and trying to study a machine before writing code. I only used it once, but I have used it, and it's a great 3D software design tool. And anyhow, taking a class in this, if you don't take one in SolidWorks, you can take it in Inventor or take it in both. And we're just talking about introductory, just so that you get familiar with it, okay? That's really all I would suggest. Just get familiar with it. But you're going to run into it. You're going to run into designs and documents that are just like this. All right, and you're going to have to build your PLC program using that software, or using the prints and copies of that software, if that makes sense. All right, so we have next up is EKTS. Now, this is not a high-level software program. It's a good introductory level 1, level 2 if you need it. Controls engineer or PLC programmer software. So because just like this diagram shows, you can simulate the software. I used to have this, and I don't think I have this on my computer anymore. But needless to say, I'll go ahead and start this up. Maybe we can come back to it. But needless to say, you can build an entire electrical circuit here to include solenoids and motor starts and contacts and etc. Indicators, and you can simulate that circuit. Okay, so you just push the button, and it will actually energize these rungs, and will start your motor start. So you know, over here on the left we have our essentially our code, and on the right we have our line diagram. So anyhow, that is EKTS. I think it's really worth it because it's a neat little program to practice with, to learn with. Let's see if I can pull up a basic program. I don't know if I can. I haven't worked with this in so long. But we'll go into some more advanced. As you can see, you can just pull in, say, single pole limit switch, right? You can just put that in there, and now I have it, right? So I got my device moving around. I can put in switches, induction motors, single phase. I can literally build my circuit accordingly, right? And just build it and go from there. And I can just put lines just like so, all right? And then simulate it by just putting the pushing the green line, green button right here. All right, and then I can actually push start and stop buttons in here as well. So I won't belabor it. I think you get the point. Pretty cool little software. I think that's most certainly worth. And you see, I downloaded it while watching, while recording this. So it loads up very quick. It's very easy. Now what I have to do is I have to get this thing to stop. So just so we can move on with our video here. So now an advanced version of simulation software, right? That takes the exact same thing, our controls, and it's really extensive, is Automation Studio. And I have this, a light version of this on another laptop, but this here will simulate the same as the EKTS software. This will simulate your circuits, your valves, your motors, your air cylinders. It will simulate an entire hydraulic, very complex. This is a very advanced software program. If nothing else, it would be worth taking a class in using this software because you're going to get exposure in a high level of technology that is very rare. I wish I would have got more into this when I very first started because this would be extremely useful when you're dealing with complex hydraulics and pneumatic systems. For me personally, it would have been very, very helpful early on. But this is Automation Studio. It is a very expensive, very advanced training engineering software. You can use it to train with, but it's great. But it's also very real world. You will find large companies will use software very similar to this in the actual real world design. So I just wanted you to be aware of it. You're going to run into essentially simulation software. You're going to want to use simulation software on occasion. So I just wanted you to be aware that exists and that it's out there for training and or real world integration. All right, and it's got a whole library of really cool stuff in here. So anyhow, that's Automation Studio, really great. So now SQL, that's a software. So SQL, you'll find here we went to RealPars. I noticed RealPars just the other week, maybe it was. They were putting together how to install a MySQL import a sample database. They had a video, 8 video sequence here, and you'll find that on YouTube. So if you look up RealPars and look for the SQL programming basics, then you'll run into it. And the great thing about that is you will, as the front of the video says, you're gonna use SQL to create and to work in and out of a database. It's going to be very important, especially moving forward with in the controls and programming environment. All right, so I would recommend go to their website, realpars.com, or go to their YouTube channel, youtube.com/realpars, and watch these 8 videos to learn more about how to install MySQL and import a sample database. It's really worth your time. It's going to be an important part of your experience moving forward. All right, so next up we have a software program. They have a software that's called Inkspace. Now, this one's more of a personal preference than something you're going to run into necessarily. But as a personal preference, when you can take a stylus and you can draw on a piece of paper and then get that digital, you draw it, and instead of scanning or anything of that nature, you can create documents, text. You can take your handwriting and turn it into text. You can turn it into video, PDF, you name it, PNG. This is a great little software package, and there's some hardware. You can use it in your tablet. You can use it in this type of a paper tablet. So I think that this is really cool. You can make your hand notes, draw it, etc., and it'll instantly turn it into a digital document. So, and you just use this stylus right here. I got one for my son for Christmas. I think it's an awesome. He's a applications engineer. So I think it's an awesome little piece of software. All right. Okay, close that out. All right. So now here's one. Now you could get this and utilize this in a couple of Microsoft software programs, whether it's PowerPoint or Project Manager or just out of Excel or Word. This is a mind mapping software, but this here is a MyManager. I think it's really valuable. You can put together some really complex visual procedures, processes. You can literally write a function block type of program here just using this type of software without even having the software. But mind mapping is really important, especially when working as a team or remotely to, for example, to get a lot of ideas and try and sequence them and turn it into a visual resource that everyone can view, edit, contribute to, adjust, change. It's a great team tool right here. So whether you use something like PowerPoint or not, MyManager, mind mapping is a powerful tool to utilize in the engineering world, controls programming world. In my opinion, you will find this. And some teams will choose to use something like this in combo with like Evernote, for example, and a software. This type of software, you can really accomplish a lot. It's a really great tool. It's great to get experience using MindMap. And if you sit and think about it, I'm sure you can come up with 100 different ways you could utilize some software program like this in this career field. Okay, so now another one. This one's a kind of a personal thing. Now the IT and controls, I've had good and bad experiences. Some of the bad is that IT, we have to go through IT, we have to work with IT, and we have to, you know, abide by IT's protocols. But therein lies the problem. They don't know anything about controls, and we only care about the part that's relevant to the control side, about the IT side. But generally in a company, they own the technology, the hardware, and have the final authority on software. So we tend to butt heads, IT and controls. But with that being said, putting that aside, a great little software program to back up files, for example, is Backblaze. That's B-A-C-K, Blaze, right? Backblaze will automatically back up your files just by itself. Automatically, it'll create files online and store them for you. And while you might not think that's important, it's crucially important when you have files and you want to have a remote, automated, no thought put into it type of process. I use this particular software on my own personal family computer because I don't want to lose what we got. And I know that these guys, that's their specialty. The cost is like $4 or $5 a month. That's it. It backs up all your files and you don't have to even think about it. All right. And you can put time, you can back it up every week, day, month, whatever it is. So I really recommend Backblaze when thinking about personal backup. I bring this up because you're going to work from home. You're going to have some files and stuff. And as you do anything with your work computer, if you're permitted through your IT or your personal computer, Backblaze, unlimited backup for a couple bucks a month. I cannot say enough about this software program because you're going to lose files. Your computer's going to crash. You know, you got to be able to back up two things. You got to be able to get the software up and running again that you need, and you got to be able to retrieve your files. Okay? Very important. Two things. So you got to have solutions for both of those. You got to have your access to install your software and your files. Okay, so here's another. So I'm using screencastomatic to record this video. And when it comes to video, and we'll talk more about how to break this up and why I chose some of them and all that. But Screencast-O-Matic has a free version, and it has a paid version. But the paid version is $18 a year. $18 a year, and you can record. There's no free version gets a watermark, but you can record, you can edit. You got a whole entire video software program right here for $18. And I've used it for years. It's very simple, very easy to use, and it's very, very inexpensive. So I believe this is very important tool because I use it a lot in working, especially when trying to track, troubleshoot, or share what it is I'm doing with other people. This software is a godsend. All right, it really is very simple, very easy. You cannot find a much more easier software program than this to work, and cheap, $18, very inexpensive. Okay, so next up is a more advanced video software and DaVinci Resolve. Now, I use DaVinci Resolve, and I could probably use it for everything, but it's much more high-end. But the great thing about it, it's free. But if you want to put some videos together, and you may, in the control side, now, you got to think about this. There's a lot of different reasons why you're going to need a video. You may need to put together some training materials. There's a whole host of things, of reasons I've needed to generate and create videos from. So anyhow, this is a great tool. I highly recommend this DaVinci Resolve software. It's free. It's easy. There are videos online to learn As you can see, and I'm not going to pull it up. I don't want to pull the whole thing, but you got videos in here. You got audio. You can add text, a whole bunch of stuff, possibly for training or whatever reason. So the great thing about this is it's free and it's really a much. You can see it right here. It's much a very high end type of software. All right. Up next is okay. So obviously we have Microsoft Outlook. Okay, I use Microsoft Outlook. It's probably my #1 software, and it'll probably be yours as well. #1. I also use PowerPoint, Word, Excel. So the whole Microsoft suite of programs. I use them. I use at least 2, if not 3 of them every single day. Every single day. So if you don't use Microsoft, obviously you have Gmail, you have several other versions. You have Mailbird. The thing about Mailbird and other ones like Thunderbird is some companies don't want to pay Microsoft, so they'll use an alternative source for their email management. Much smaller companies generally. But I just want you to be aware of several of the options. Now, maybe you're doing programming on the side, or you're just getting started and you don't have the money to put into the Microsoft program. Then what I recommend that you do is look at some alternatives. But you're going to have to get very competent at email. So this is Mailbird. You have Thunderbird, which I worked with a company, a very small company that used Thunderbird. That was their Mozilla Thunderbird was their email system throughout the whole company. So it was just to let you know, companies do use alternative email sources than Microsoft or even Gmail. All right, so there's a couple of ones. I've used the Thunderbird. The Mailbird I've heard a lot about. I can't say I can't think that I've ever used it, but I heard a lot of good things about it. So that's just something to keep in mind. There's more than just Outlook and Gmail. There's some other resources. And they have free versions and advanced versions. So that's something to keep in mind Keep your mind on there. Okay, so I use, so the next program we're going to talk about is file. So is zip file. So I use 7-zip, 7-zip. So to unzip files or even to zip them up, and makes it easier to transport files. It'll give it a compression rate. So I use 7-zip. There are I know a buddy of mine uses this pzip, and he says that's a great software that he's used. It'll extract RAR, TAR, zip files. You just want something that's really, 7-zip is free. I've always used it for years, and I've never had any issues with it whatsoever, period. And it zips and unzips files. So for me, it's been great. It's easy to use. Can't beat it. And you can see it just opens up, add a file, and it'll extract it, tell you where you want it. Simple. You are going to want some sort of zip software to zip and or extract files. A very important must-have. All right. Now, it's without even thinking about it, you're going to use other softwares, right? You're going to use softwares like BootP. You're going to use HMI software, whatever that is. You're going to use software to program your drives, possibly. You're going to use Zoom. Zoom is a very popular one these days. I've heard good and bad things about it. I've used it once or twice. But video conferencing, you're going to use that a lot. So what I recommend is get a Zoom account set up. Get it set up so you're ready to go when the time comes that you need to use Zoom. The other the other software that you're going to use likely and probably early on in your career at some point or another is TeamViewer. TeamViewer is a all-in-one solution for secure remote access and support. So what happens, the way I use this is if I'm not on site but I have someone else on site, and I can remote in using TeamViewer, dial in from the internet and get access to their PLC program on the software that they're using at the location that the machine's at, and I can remote in. Now, it does require somebody to be on site at the machine to give you permission to log on, but if it has a Ethernet capability and you can tie into your processor, then you can reach it remotely. So that's great. Or another way that this gets used is if I'm on a machine, I'm having trouble and I need some tech support, I'll let them dial in, and you just use a couple of passwords and they can go right in and almost do everything on that computer that they need to do remotely. So TeamViewer is used by, virtually every controls engineer I know uses TeamViewer at some point or another. Every PLC programmer that does any kind of field work. So very, very common software. Now, again, we could talk about the ladder logic software, the HMI software. Those, I'm not going to get into those. These are more peripheral softwares that I wanted to share with you today. Now, the other thing is I use a software, So VMware is another software that I use on my laptop, programming laptop, because I want to be able to run a drive, a virtual drive that's set up for a different Windows version. Okay, so that way I can run software that's Windows version dependent. It's reliant on a different type of Windows version. And VMware helps me do that with my laptop. So if you don't know anything about virtual drives, then I recommend you take a class on that, because it is most certainly going to be something you're going to work with at some point or another. And the reason being is because, again, as I said, you're going to eventually work with software. This is not being nice, is it? That is going to be Windows version dependent. All right. So virtual drives help you do that. You can set up a portion of your drive to function just like a Windows Vista, Windows 7 versus the Windows 10 that's on the primary software on your laptop. Just as an example, all right? If you don't know about it, I recommend learning about it. So I use VMware on my laptop, and it works really good, very easy to work with. I just hit the button, and I open up a window, and it gives me a different version, Windows version. All right? Okay, so then okay, so there are some other softwares that we can talk about that you're going to use. And one of them is GIMP. So GIMP is a small little photo editing software. It's free. And if you need to make some edits to a picture or something of that nature, this is a free version. It's a light version, but it can do the job. I don't spend a lot of time with this because I have a Photoshop option. But this is an alternative to paying for Photoshop software, right? Now, of course, I have Photoshop, and I use Photoshop on occasion in the controls field because I want very specific drawings, pictures, etc. in my HMIs, for example. So I use Photoshop. Photoshop's a great software tool. It's very easy. You can take a very simple class. But like with all these softwares, the only way to get good at it is you just got to practice, period. And you gotta say, okay, and at the end of the video, I'm going to share with you exactly how you can categorize these softwares so that you can try to understand how to kind of organize them instead of this just being a big mess. But what I want to do is I really want to just get into the software today with you. So another software that you're most certainly going to work with, if I can get it over here, is it is being difficult. AutoCAD. So you're going to need a version of AutoCAD. Now here's the trick to this. One, you can get a student license, right? So that's how I started. I got a student license, and that's how I started building my experience with automation in the design. Is that I got a student license, I got a copy of the AutoCAD, and that's how I just started building programs. So for me, that's how I got started. But you're definitely going to be using AutoCAD at some point or another. You know, when I first started, one of the first engineering groups I ever worked with, that was what I did for like a month, was just draw prints. So just to give you an example, you're going to need AutoCAD. Now, one of the next drawings you're going to run into is e-drawings. Okay, so I'm going to open up e-drawings here, and e-drawings is a really cool software program that lets you work with machines. So in this particular case, I can, I don't have my mouse set up to make this do what I want it to do the way I want, but e-drawings is pretty cool. I remember the first time I used it, it'll let you rotate the machine around, right? You can zoom in. I can see all my sensors, right? I can make any part of it transparent or hide it so I can get a better look at the system. And one of the great cool things I really liked about e-drawings. Now this is, I believe this is a SolidWorks design, but this is a viewer. I can't edit this. I can manipulate it, but I can't edit it. I can't make any permanent changes to this drawing. This is not a design software. It's used for end users, customers, and other professionals who need to have access to this machine so they can build it. So machine builders, controls engineers, electricians will look at this and say, okay, now I know what you got going on here, and I can help build this machine. Or an end user can say, yep, that's exactly that looks the way I want, right? There's a whole lot of features on here that I don't even know what they all are. But I do know this. What's great about this software for me is that I can literally, for controls engineers, I can literally put the parts in, like we see there. I can come in here and I can clamp the machine. I've hit the auto cycle. It's cycling through it, right? I can come here and drive my clips in, right? Let's move this puppy over here, okay? And I can make my part mark so it's been inspected with my sensors, lasers, cameras, and then take the part out. So I get a version of the cycling of this machine. So as you can see, e-drawings kind of is really great. What I want to bring this up for is, you're going to need experience with this. So I recommend go download e-drawings, get a file like a machine file. You can look online for them, or you can take classes where people use them, etc. You know, if you want to build a project like this, just let me know. I'll help you get set up. But anyhow, my point being, this is a great software. I use this all the time myself. Not as much anymore because I've done these projects, a lot of them. But anyhow, I use design software all the time for building my programming, right? Okay, so we'll close that booger down. And okay, the next software up is SketchUp. So if you're going to expose or do some design, or some companies aren't going to go with the expensive CAD software, this here is a lightweight but very functional 3D software. and you may run into some designs and or want to do maybe some machine or component design work. This SketchUp is, I mean, there's a free version. There's other versions that are only a couple $100. But as you can see, there's some great, cool things you can do with this. Tons of products. I don't have a lot of experience with this, but I do know some companies are using this. This is their probably one of the 2 software programs that they do use for design work. So I just think you need to be aware of it. The great thing is you can just sign up off Google and get it, and it give you a very quick CAD program for yourself, for your own personal design purposes. Okay, so SketchUp's pretty cool software. Just go online and download it and start playing around with it. Get a couple of files from some friends or something that you can take a look at. Okay. Okay, so we got a couple of other software programs that we're going to talk about next. And they're IDE, essentially line development softwares. And this one's it's Visual Studio for C and C++. And this software, I have had experience using this in an older HMI program. However, I did meet the guy who built that software program. I do know that he is a work-from-home C++ HMI designer. That's what he does full-time. And I found out there's a lot of guys who do that type of work. The thing about C++ is that it has a longer development cycle than, say, Java, for example. But in highly complex, very technical, say, chemical factories, things of that nature, you want a much higher level, more robust software program, and it's going to be very intricate and complex. C++ generally is one of the go-to software programs for that, even today. Okay, it takes quite a bit more money to develop in time, but high-end, a lot of companies go to C++. So something, if you have had some experience in the past, now you know where that experience might be able to be steered towards. Okay, makes sense? So HMI development's been my exposure to it. And I can tell you this much, not having any C++ when I ran into having to work with this software program tended to be a bit of a challenge. I had to kind of struggle through it. And I was trying to troubleshoot a machine. Not the best time to learn something, if you know what I mean. Okay, so now let's go. The next one is Python. Now, you'd say, this isn't computer science. This is PLC programming. This is controls engineering. This is automation. However, what you've got to understand is we, in this field, integrate a lot of computer science technologies. Networking, Python, C++. We integrate a lot of computer science technologies into our job. And you're going to use Python, for example, to collect data, for example, out of a PLC, which is how I got exposure to this particular software, was trying to pull data from a PLC. And then we would take that data, put it into a spreadsheet, use it, and create some charts. So it was a great tool for that. And it was very easy to do that work with. So Python would be another software you may run into for that very purpose. Okay? All right. We're at that part of the video where I want to be able to take and organize this for you. This is the best part, right? So if you stuck around, congratulations. This is the best part. So what we want to do is I'm going to share with you what we do is you're going to need some software for design. Okay. You need to do me a favor, take a couple of classes in some sort of design. It's not, maybe it's going to be your profession, but you may be working with designers, and it's very helpful if you have some familiarity with the software. If you're doing controls and PLC programming at some point, you're going to use AutoCAD. So you got it. Then I would say AutoCAD number one, and then something like SolidWorks, Sketchup, or Inventor for your 3D modeling to follow that up. But AutoCAD should be your specialty in the design software. Okay, all right. So EKTS and Automation Studio for any simulation work. All right, in controls. So I would highly recommend that. Take an Automation Studio class and get the AKTS and play around with it. All right, build some controls programs. Okay, ladder logic. Okay, so in your programming, whatever platform you're going to use, whether you use Automation Direct, Siemens, Rockwell, it doesn't matter. You got your platform that you're going to, and I recommend getting really good at one platform at a time first. Then you can add in some line development, right? Python, C++, add in SQL, and that's you're gonna get these software skill sets in the programming platform here. Okay, so in this category, programming is a category of software that you're going to be working with. That'll help you. Okay, so notes, and you can use all kinds. Here we got Evernote. We didn't cover box notes, but box notes is another option to be able to store notes and documents and things of that nature. Store it on the go, and again, it has password protected, so it's very good. It synchronizes to your home computer, your work computer, your cell phone, your wife's cell phone. It synchronizes all by itself, and so it's a very great tool. It has a free version and a paid version. Backup, you gotta be able to back up your data, your work. You gotta be able to back it up. So you got Google Drive. We didn't talk about that, but that's there. Acronis cloning. We didn't talk about that. That'll clone your hard drive so that you've got exactly what an exact replication of what you have. Acronis cloning, and you have Backblaze will back up your files. I would recommend that as well. That's $5, and you don't have to think about it. I think it's $4 or $5. So in your viewers, now here's where it's on the end user. So somebody builds this the 3D modeling as you've seen with e-drawings, 3D model, but then you need to be able to look at it, take it apart, see how it functions, so that you can then write the code for the machine. So you have DWGC, which I didn't demonstrate, but e-drawings is I demonstrated that, pretty close to the same. And then compression. So in compression, real simple. You got 7-zip or PZip, covered both of them. Very simple. You're just going to be able to zip and unzip files. So you have some compression, right? Graphics. So you have Photoshop. I didn't open it up, didn't show it to you. I have it. I highly recommend it. Inkspace. GIMP is a free version. Inkspace is the if you recall, the hand notes to a digital file. It'll take your hand notes, turn it into typed notes. Fantastic. I highly recommend looking into it. Projects. You got to be able to manage the projects digitally. So you have Microsoft's project, and you have Gantt PV, which we did not discuss, but I recommend as homework, look at some of this video, make some notes, go check out Gantt PV as an option. But at minimum, you have Microsoft's project. You also have Google Sheets, and you have different templates that you can use from Google, right? Okay. Virtualization. Now, we talked about virtualizing your drive and the reason is you want to be able to work with hard drive versions of. So take one hard drive, you're going to split it. This one will be maybe Windows 10. This one might need to work at Windows 7 because for whatever reason it's version dependent, and you can set up a virtual drive to function just like your hard drive. It'll function just the same way, but it'll be running on the exact same hard drive as a version 7. Okay, so it's like having a version 10 and a version 7 on the exact same hard drive. So very important, and it's going to become more important as we move forward in the controls world as we move forward from 2020. So you have VMware, you have VirtualBox, you have Windows Virtual PC. All right. Look into it, take a training class, get into learning about it. It's going to be very important moving forward. Okay, email, one of the most #1 tool you'll ever use, email. Outlook, Gmail, Mailbird, Thunderbird. You're going to want to set up get really, really good at Outlook or Gmail. Organize it, keep things very neat, keep your email box clean. We'll do a video on that later. But needless to say, get good, learn how to set appointments, learn how to accept appointments, learn how to organize your files, get your email signature down. All this stuff because if you don't, you're going to wish that you had, because what's going to happen is you're going to struggle a little bit in the real world, and that's going to be a real pain in the butt when you're trying to do the job, and then you struggle with the basic software such as Outlook or Gmail. Other people are going to see it, and it's going to cause you some angst. I'm just letting you know how it works, and I'm telling you from my experience. Okay, so video. You're going to need some sort of video software. You don't have to become a video expert. Screencastomatic, easy. Zoom for virtual meetings, very easy. Make a recording, you're done. Resolve is a little more high-end, much more robust software program. But my point being, you have several options there. So what I've done, if you notice what I've done here, is I've kind of broke these all down into categories. Your design, simulation, programming, notes, backup, viewers, compression, graphics projects, and virtualization, email, and video. So those categories, 3, 6, 9, 12 different categories, are generally the categories you will use software in the most. Now, obviously in the programming side, there's so much more software, obviously, right? So you have not just your ladder logic, but you got BootP, you got HMI, you got drives, you got tons of software, which I'm going to assume you've already got some familiarity with. But what I want to do is expose you to a whole bunch of other software that you're likely going to work with or butt up against somewhere throughout your career, and probably early on. All right. So what I say is write down these categories, review this video, write down these categories, play around with some of these softwares, and say, what software do I want to take to get competent in a design? So AutoCAD, right? I want to draw some prints and I want to do some simulation. You have that option. Programming, you already know where we're going there. But I wanted to broaden your mind beyond just ladder logic. You got, Python, SQL, C++, computer science type softwares, right? Notes, very important. Backup viewers, etc. So we could go through this endlessly. And there's tons of software I didn't even touch. But I wanted to give you an introductory to the software the pros use. All right. So if you have any suggestions, any ideas, any opinions, I'd really like to hear down below. And if this is your first time here, subscribe, become part of the team. All right. So until next time, this is Paul with Logix Magazine. Enjoy your day.